Hi, and welcome to Long Live the Queen, where we talk about the women who made history. And by we, I mean the royal we, because it's just me. Today we're talking about Anne of France. So they said he seemed like a kid who'd rather play knights than rule. So basically he was a young 13. He wasn't an post-pubescent 13, really. He was still a little boy. And Louis, dumbass that he is, left no regent, which was an uncharacteristically risky move for the Spider King to just forget that, especially if he's suffered from years of apoplexy and strokes and paranoia. And what didn't help is that 3 months later, in December, Queen Charlotte also died at 42.
Oh, no.
Just 3 months after her husband. But she'd always been sickly. So that kind of had to be assumed that that's a possibility. They think she might have had tuberculosis, and then she you don't really ever fully recover from it, especially without modern day medications and whatnot.
Yeah.
Although people have said she died of a broken heart, although I don't know that anyone's heart is breaking over the universal spider. But like 3 months later, that's what you'll say. Oh, the queen was so brokenhearted that she lost her beloved, that she died 3 months later.
I mean, every lid has a pot.
Yeah. So. Anne, 22, was now an orphan. I mean, an adult orphan, which is very different than a child orphan. But both her parents were gone, and her mother's wisdom was gone when she probably could have used it the most. Now, her mother had been queen at 19. So this is a similar trajectory that Anne is taking, because Anne stepped into the void as her role as regent for her brother. So she's 22 instead of 19, and it's her brother, not her husband.
Okay.
And someone actually has to do the ruling. So they made her husband co-regent with her, because they're like, a woman can't do this by herself.
Right.
Definitely this guy. And if she's 22, that would make him 45. And even that seems like a large age gap, but it's better than the 12-35 situation.
Yeah.
And then enter the Mad War. That's the name of this war, the Mad War. And it is exactly as chaotic as it sounds. On one side, Anne and her husband Peter and her brother Charles, the teenage king. On the other side, a rebooted League of the Public Weal. They had named themselves that still. This is the same name. And now it's led by the sons of the original guys, because they're mostly dead. And the new leader is no longer problematic Uncle Charlie, because he's long dead now. The new leader of the League of the Public Weal is Joan's husband, Louis, Duke of Orleans, the one who they're trying to extinguish the family line with. He's the new problematic Uncle Charlie. So Louis was looking at the throne, and he had one sickly 13-year-old brother-in-law, and he was next in line. And his poor wife Joan at 19 was caught in the crossfire, because it's between her sister and her brother and her husband.
Right.
And meanwhile, she's like a punishment wife, stuck with this guy. No, thank you.
So she knows he doesn't like her.
Yeah. She's just, this is why she's a saint. If anyone earned the term saint, it is Joan.
Saint Joan of Valois is the patron saint of prisoners, widows, and those ridiculed for piety, as well as a protector against sudden death and in times of mourning.
That seems perfect for her.
Yes, it does.
Because her annulment from this jackass, spoiler alert, basically they'll just humiliate her until everyone agrees that, you can throw this whole wife away. So.
Throw this whole wife away.
Yeah.
She was briefly the Queen of France, wasn't she?
She was, because she's married to this problematic man. And then he ditched her, and she became a saint. So, while Anne navigated France's turmoil, events across the Channel offered a glimpse of the broader European stage. So here's where we get our cross-in. Across the Channel, for my Tudor girls, it's 1485, which means the Battle of Bosworth Field. So King Richard's crying, a horse, my kingdom for a horse," which is Shakespeare's Richard III, Act 5, Scene 4. That's happening right now. That's where we are in history. And he fell to Henry Tudor, who became King Henry VII. And we have entered the Tudor era, bitches.
I
Fran-
believe she, as regent, like supported Henry the
she
Seventh.
did. She did.
Okay.
Ain't nobody liking Richard right now. So she was like the best parts of both her mother and her father, I think.
Okay.
Beyond politics, Anne's court became a cultural beacon. Carrying forward her mother's intellectual legacy, Anne's court at Amboise, so the same palace that she spent a lot of her childhood learning in, is now where she is having her court and raising her child Charles. If he's still around, unclear. We think probably he was still around. And it mirrored her upbringing. Her adult life mirrored her upbringing quite a bit. So she must have thought a lot of her upbringing because she tried to create the exact same thing when she was an adult in the exact same place.
Okay.
But it also could have just been her falling back into old ways. Like, this is the same place she's always learned. So when she comes back, it would be natural to just kind of go to her mom's library and resume her life.
Yeah.
And her influence seemed to shape noble women's roles, like Catherine of Aragon or Anne Boleyn, who would later be like pious but petty. They were kind of doing the Anne thing. Like sassy, but like godly sassy.
Really sassy. I like it.
Mm-hmm. So Anne wasn't just surviving, she was setting the stage for Renaissance court, which this would have been early Renaissance. Like Renaissance hadn't even really hit England yet. So Anne was kind of the
Right.
original, like, okay, let's all learn things and talk about it. As her regency peaked, a new challenge emerged that would reshape France's future and test Anne's diplomatic skill. In 1488, as the Mad War ended, the Duke of Brittany died, leaving his duchy to his 11-year-old daughter, Anne of Brittany, because she was his only child.
Okay.
And the reason I say that in such an ominous way
Dun,
is
dun,
that,
dun.
gross alert, every nobleman in France eyed her for marriage material because she is an 11-year-old duchess. And if you marry the 11-year-old duchess, you become a duke who owns a duchy.
Mm-hmm.
And she's 11, and both her parents are dead because her mom had already died. So she's on her own.
Easy to take advantage of.
Yep. And Anne, at 11, probably with some help of, I mean, she was getting betrothals offers every day. She arranged a proxy marriage to Maximilian, the 29-year-old Holy Roman Emperor, which is kind of badass for an 11-year-old, but also
Yep.
gross. Gross.
Yeah.
But it was just a proxy marriage. It was legal in the eyes of the law, but not in the eyes of the church. She didn't move in with him. They didn't consummate the marriage. It was done on paperwork.
Right.
So she was married, but she wasn't married, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
But that would mean that France would be flanked by the Roman Empire on two borders if they got Brittany. And they were like, fuck no. We're not doing that. The Empire already wants France in their clutches. Absolutely not. They don't get Brittany. So there was a war because France was like, absolutely none. Now, 14-year-old Anne, by the time the war ended, Anne is now 14. This is 3 years later. And the Empire and Brittany lost the war. France won. And so they told her, never mind, you're not married to the Emperor anymore. Your marriage is void. I don't know that they can officially say that, but that's what they said. They aren't the Pope. But they did win the war.
Okay.
So instead, she'd get married to Anne's brother, King Charles VIII, who was 21. So Anne kind of set this deal up, which I don't love, telling the 14-year-old she can't marry the emperor now she's married to the king. I get that it was politics,
Yeah.
but I don't love this whole forced marriage situation. I mean, it's not like she was in a better situation with the 29-year-old emperor. With her brother's marriage secured, Anne transitioned from a regent to a quieter role. She stepped back. And I know my Ricardians hate me here, but Richard III could take some notes about a region just stepping down.
Well, from what I was reading, I understood it that Anne of Brittany kind of forced her out.
Oh yeah, they didn't get along. They didn't get
Yeah.
along for sure. And it was like it was going to end. I'm just mean she exited with grace.
Right. Okay.
So Anne of France, now 27, saw that her regency was, I mean, her brother was nearing 21. It was going to end. Like, he is a grown up now. He's definitely a adult king now. He's 21. Again, I don't want a 21-year-old in charge of any of my kingdoms, but you do you, France.
Better than a 13-year-old.
It is. It is. He's a grown up now, at least. Almost. He almost has a fully formed brain. He's just not good at the long-term consequences of his actions, which seems like an important thing for a king to know. I'm just saying, maybe wait till the brain is fully formed. So, let's see. In May 1491, Anne had her second child, Suzanne. And Suzanne was of frail health and had a mysterious deformity that, again, they don't go into specifics on.
Interesting.
But I feel like this just kind of made her remember how close she was to her sister. Like, I feel like her daughter Suzanne probably reminded her a lot of her sister Joan.
Right.
And so that June, Anne, Joan, and Charles got together with their spouses, all 6 of them, and they swore a sibling oath to love and protect each other always because they'd been fighting. And you know Joan's husband was like, son of a bitch. Like, I'm trying to get this guy off the throne, not encourage his happy marriage to have babies. But he was there, and he didn't throw a public tantrum. So then Anne, Peter, and Suzanne then left home, returning to Bourbon, leaving, if he's still alive, Charles, their son, who by now would be about 15 or 16 if he's still alive. We'll get back to him soon because his life is fleeting. At the moment, it is nearing the end. So, in somewhat unrelated news, tragedy struck unexpectedly, plunging Anne's family into chaos and raising questions that linger in history still to this day. So it's mystery time. Are you ready to solve the mystery?
I'm so ready.
Okay, so it's April 1498. Charles VIII is 27. He's always been of frail health, a little immature, but now he's a grown-up. He's 27. He was supposed to play tennis. And he struck his head on... They used to put these decorative pieces in the corner of doorways to kind of round off the doorway.
Oh.
He hit his head on that. That's why we don't have those anymore. I mean, I don't know if that's why we don't, but, like, that seems like a problem for the tall people. The decorative door frame. So he hit his head on that. But then he went to tennis. He played the game. And on the way back from tennis, he fell into a coma at 2 p.m.
Oh.
Yeah. And he died 9 hours later.
Oh,
Like,
my
he didn't
goodness.
starve to death. He just, 9 hours later, he was dead. And he was childless. And so this sparked a succession crisis. And modern analysis doubts that this head injury could have killed him. They're like, he couldn't have hit his head so hard that he played a perfectly normal game of tennis, then fell into a coma, then died 9 hours later. That's just not realistic. Although that's, at the time, they were just like, oh, he hit his head, and then he died. That makes sense.
It seems like maybe there was some poison or something in there.
I mean, yeah. They do say that he could have had epilepsy, and that could have been his poor health, his poor lifelong health. So it could be that he could have just had a seizure and died.
Okay.
That's the most likely culprit. But if we're looking for zebras here, and I'm always looking for zebras, it's time for Christina's Conspiracy Corner, which is what I call it when I just make stuff up. So just to stop the people who are going to comment, and those comments always start, actually, I know, I'm probably making this up, but hear me out. Around the same time, Anne's son Charles, now 22, might have also died. This is the only date we have for a possible death for him, was right around this same time.
Okay.
Now, he wouldn't be in line for succession. So, but there's a maddeningly historical black hole. But hear me out. because he wasn't in line for the throne, because the prince of the bloodline can't pass through his mother. Women taint the princes of the blood, so it stops, dead end. He's not a
Okay.
prince of the blood. He's not in line. But if they were ever going to consider changing that rule, wouldn't it be for King Anne's son, who grew
Mm-hmm.
up at court, raised by
Yeah.
King Anne, who
Mm-hmm.
was still friendly with his, I guess, uncle, King
Yeah.
Charles? They were close in age.
Mm-hmm.
He died at the same time.
Mm.
So the only person left is brother-in-law, Joan's husband, the first prince of the blood.
Mm-hmm.
He would be threatened by
Uh,
both of them. If they're both gone,
L-
he's the only one left.
Louis of Orleans. Is
Mm-hmm.
that right? Okay.
Yeah. Or as we're going to call him in a minute, King Louis the XII, known as Louis the
Uh,
Fortunate. Fortunate indeed. So they died at the same time. There's no proof. Stop with the comments. Stop saying you made this up. I know I made this up, but I think it's valid. They need me solving crimes then. What do you think? What do you think? Was it epilepsy? Was it the head hit? Was it poison?
you know what? It could have just been like a crime of opportunity, like let's poison him and blame it on the head hit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's me with no other
Yeah.
information
We
at
know
all.
there's no proof, but you know what? We're here for the drama. If this was a Netflix drama, they would be poisoning him. Like, that's what would happen in the show, for sure.
Hmm.
So, the sudden loss of her brother, and then her son, probably, because we don't actually know, ushered in a new king and a pretty painful chapter for Anne's family. Like, the golden age is over, because the king is dead. Long live the king. And Louis, Duke of Orleans, at 36, became King Louis the XII, Anne's brother-in-law, Joan's husband, and King Charles VIII's second cousin once removed, because in addition to him not wanting to be married to Joan, they're also second cousins once removed. So he's known to history as King Louis the Fortunate, because no one thought he was ever going to be king. King Louis the Fortunate is married to Saint Joan. Maybe that's why he's Louis the Fortunate. They're like, look at that wife. She's a saint. He's so fortunate to have her. That's how
Literally.
I'm going to think of it from now on. So after 24 years of marriage, Louis and Joan still had no children. So maybe she
Wow.
was sterile. Maybe he really just didn't ever see her. I mean, there's a lot of reasons it could have been, but they had
Yeah.
no children after 24 years,
Hmm.
which is risky as first Prince of the Blood, who is now King Louis the XII. He needs an heir.
Hmm.
And Louis did not like his in-laws for all the reasons we mentioned before. He is like, fuck these guys.
Yeah.
And Anne of Brittany, the 17-year-old dowager queen, also didn't like those very same in-laws for similar reasons. And together they hatched a plan, although together is in air quotes because he is a middle-aged man and she is 17. So she was part of his plan and she just was like, well, it can't get any worse.
Yeah. She'll be Queen of France again.
Mm-hmm. Louis sought an annulment to marry Anne, uniting France and Brittany, which was kind of what Brittany was trying to avoid in the first place, but whatever, it happened before, it'll happen again. So the annulment was messy, and Joan, humiliated, retired to a nunnery. And she was later canonized in 1950, and her episode will come up, so we will talk about her in that episode. And Anne of Brittany, who's now 19, became queen again. Queen of France for the second time. So that's noteworthy. That's Eleanor of Aquitaine noteworthy. Like Eleanor of Aquitaine was Queen of France, then Queen of England. Anne of Brittany was Queen of France twice with two different
I think
kings.
she was the only one, right? She's the only woman who's
I think
been
so,
Queen
yeah.
of France twice.
I think so. So, faced with personal and political upheaval, Anne drew on her resilience to protect her daughter and her legacy. She kind of just melted into Bourbon and was like, this is what I'm focusing on now.
Mm-hmm.
In 1503, Peter, at 64, died of a fever while trying to betroth 9-year-old Suzanne to a nobleman. And again, I say, Christina's conspiracy corner. Do you poison the bitch who's trying to marry off your 9-year-old daughter when you yourself were married to that guy at 12?
It depends on how he treated her. I mean, if he was a bad husband, but I don't really get that
I think
through
I'd
like
poison
reading
the
between
creep
the
that's trying to
lines.
marry off my
I
9-year-old
mean, I
daughter.
guess that could be a last straw.
Allegedly. No, no shade on Anne. I support this alleged murder if it happened. Don't try this at home, though. This is not advice. So, Suzanne needed a husband for safety, though, now, because now Suzanne is in the same position that Anne, Duchess of Brittany, was in, where she's a 9-year-old duchess. Like,
Hmm.
so Anne wasn't going to rush it, though. In 1505, Joan, the sister, died
Hmm.
at just
Okay.
40, leaving Anne with no siblings left. So she's like the last one of her family of origin left alive. And that same year, Suzanne, who's 14 now, married her cousin, Charles of Bourbon, who was the next male in. She's the Duchess of Bourbon.
Hmm.
If they skipped her, the next one would be Charles, who's now her
Okay.
husband. So they're like, how about we just make it a tie and they both get it, and even though they're cousins.
So if France had Salic law, why was
Because that didn't
is
apply
it
to duchies
okay? All
or
right, just
counties.
the
Mm-hmm.
monarchy.
Yes.
Okay.
And like the vassal lords were still kind of their own little kingdoms. Like they're part of France and
Right.
they have to like follow the laws of the king, but they were kind of also kind of on their own.
Okay.
So they co-ruled. They were like, this will make it so there's no war, even though they're cousins. Like they're the next two in line. So if we just marry them, no fight. But also, if you remember, Suzanne was a frail health and
Hmm.
had some unnamed deformity that they say again was possibly scoliosis like her Aunt Joan, but they
Hmm.
mentioned it at her birth. So there must have been something else going on too, because scoliosis is not something you would see at birth.
Well, and I imagine prenatal care wasn't all that great
No,
back in the day,
no.
so there could have been like if they didn't have
Things. I
folic
mean,
acid.
yeah, it could have been a lot of stuff, but Suzanne's pregnancies all ended in stillbirths.
Ah, that's gotta be
Partially because of her bad
heartbreaking.
health, partially she's
Yeah.
married to her cousin. I mean, there's lots of reasons, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's disappointing when you're like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like I'm putting a lot of Joan's life on Suzanne, but I feel like their lives paralleled a little bit.
Yeah.
So even as her family dwindled, Anne's strength endured, though each loss took its toll, obviously. In 1521, Suzanne died at 29, childless. She succumbed to illness. And Anne, now 60, had outlived her husband, both of her children, and both of her siblings.
Wow.
So her son-in-law slash nephew, Charles de Bourbon, he
Hmm.
stayed single. So their shared grief kind of bonded them, but it was just the two of them, her and her son-in-law, cousin, nephew, son-in-law, nephew.
Interesting that he stayed single. Then he must have really
Yeah,
been grieving for Suzanne,
yeah,
or he was gay. Hmm.
yeah. I mean, it could have been, maybe he was just loving the single life. Anne had once been surrounded by educated women her whole life. Like, even as a
Hmm.
child, she was surrounded by educated women. And now she was alone, save for a few friends. And she ruled Bourbon with Charles, her son in law nephew. And
Did you just say son-in-law few?
I said
Like,
son in law nephew,
okay, I was like, you were like making a portmanteau there.
son in law
Son-in-law
few,
few.
son and nephew. I don't know. Nephew in law, no. Son in law slash nephew. That's what he is. Well,
Okie
it's
dokie.
technically her husband's nephew, but it is still her
Mm.
daughter's cousin, so.
Mm.
So Anne's extraordinary life drew to a quiet close, leaving behind a legacy that would inspire generations. You ready for the tearjerker? Because I haven't even told
Yeah.
you the sad part yet. In fall 1522, Anne of France, at 61, slipped away, a battle worn queen with no family to hold her hand. Picture her in Bourbon's candlelit halls, regal yet weary, her eyes tracing the manuscripts in her books. Her books surrounded her,
Yeah.
and there was just no one left. And they don't know what killed her, if it was her age or her illness or Some suggested it was a soul tired out of outliving everyone, that she just was done. And she was buried in Bourbon, and her tomb is a testament to the life that bent but never broke. And her family was gone, but Anne's wisdom lived on through a timeless gift to her daughter and the world. Anne left no heirs, but gifted the world Lessons for My Daughter, a book for Suzanne, penned with love and wisdom, published posthumously. It's iconic, and it urges Suzanne to surround herself with frugal, honest folk, and preaching that true nobility lies in humility, kindness, and courtesy. And without these, all virtues are dust.
Wow.
It seems like wise words. Like she really got it.
And I believe Suzanne's actual copy was found in Russia.
Very cool. It's Anne's mic drop moment. It's a manifesto for noble women that echoes through time, like, be humble, but slay. Like if it was an Instagram post, that's what she would have said.
Right. Yeah.
Anne of France was a Titan, a regent at 22, outsmarting the Mad War, crafting the pious but shrewd noblewoman vibe, and that defined Queen for centuries. She outlived her kids, her husband, her siblings, and she kind of just boss bitched it all the way to 61 and just was like, I feel like she killed it. And then her book is just like the icing on top. It's just perfect.
And you can actually purchase that book today, a copy of that book.
On Amazon?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, that's amazing. I was joking, but now I'm going to look into it. How much is it?
It is Kindle $19.99, paperback $25.41, and hardcover $90.93.
That is damn near reasonable.
Yeah, it's from the series The Library of Medieval Women.
Perfect. That sounds
Anne
like
of
a
France.
series I would like.
Yeah, Anne of France, Lessons for My Daughter, and then I believe it was translated by Sharon L. Jansen.
Perfect. This is part of why I keep you around. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. You're delightful. But I love this. What did you think of Anne?
I thought she was a badass.
Right? Like this could be a show.
Yes.
Or a movie or anything.
Mm-hmm.
There are books, so I'm not discounting that. But like all the terrible shows we have now, this would be an excellent show.
Yeah. And she was like graceful about it. She wasn't vicious or
even when like she was the regent, she raised her brother basically for his teenage years. She kind of got ousted and she just gracefully was like, okay, I'm going to go live in Bourbon. Peace, bitches.
I mean, she took what life gave her and she was able to...
She made the best of all of it.
Use it, yeah.
I really think she is the best part of both of her parents. Well, for our listeners, you can share your thoughts with me at longlivethequeenpodcast@gmail.com. Slide into my DMs on Facebook or Instagram at longlivethequeenpodcast, or join the Royal Court on Patreon, where Tuesdays we talk about the Tudors. The link is in the show description.
Long live to all the queens out there, and until next time, bye!
Bye!
You'll be remembered. Thanks for listening.